Yeah. No, I am Muslim.
Okay, okay. I'm a Muslim too. Yes, of course.
Okay, okay.
I mean, I'm doing all of these sort of works for the sake of God. How
Yeah.
can
No,
I not?
alhamdulillah.
I may not be a Muslim. So.
Yeah, no, no, great. No, that's good.
Look, yeah, it's a different world for sure, but yeah.
No, yeah, no, 'cause that was one thing I was going to mention. I was reading through and like how you, correct me if I'm wrong, you graduated in mechanical engineering, but you wanted to pursue your passion for the sake of
Hmm.
Allah in doing. But
Hmm.
that's really, really, really respectable, man. Very respectable.
Mm.
And you're in your mid 30s as well. You're still young, so mashallah for you to do that. It's very respectable.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a blessing.
It really is. But what made you like go through that? Was there a period in your life where you maybe had questions and doubts with regards to Islam, and then you kind of found your way back, and now you have like this passion, or have you always had
No,
this passion?
no. I never had sort of doubts
Yeah,
in Islam or
yeah,
Allah's existence.
uh-huh.
I mean, as young kids growing up, you look at the sky. Like in the
Yeah,
olden days, you sleep on the rooftops when it is warm weather,
yeah,
and you gaze through the stars, and you do get questions of where does Allah exist, and I mean, how
yes,
did he come into being? I mean, was he the first? And all of these sort of questions are
yeah,
very natural, to human beings.
definitely.
But I never had sort of a doubt in Allah's sort of existence. Like never carried a strong doubt in me. Um, um, and look, we all learn Islam. Like it may even apply to uh, this guy, Aladdin.
Yeah,
Like everybody goes to madrasa when he's a young fellow with the Arabic, book, learning the Quran, how to read the Quran. I mean, mostly in the world, Muslims go through this procedure. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And you learn Islam, the basics. Your mom and dad teach you some things, and you're obviously the
uh-huh.
imam or sheikh or whatever you call him at the mosque teaches you certain things, some stories and stuff like that. You learn those things, but they're not serious learnings. And you do learn those things. I mean, I did learn those things, but they weren't really serious learnings, as if like to go and try to be like that or try to walk those morals. It never happens. So these are stories when you listen. I mean, as a lad growing up, I heard these stories, but I did all sorts of normal things that people would do, regardless of faith teachings.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, we're human
So
beings. Yeah, so,
absolutely. So these teachings don't really matter to kids. Kids are kids after all, and they're growing up. They're experiencing the world. They don't really have an impact on kids. I should tell you. I mean, that's how I feel it.
uh-huh.
But although God is a construct, a social construct, deeply ingrained in human beings, not just modern human beings, but ancient communities also believed in a deity, in a supernatural power, right? So it's very natural to human beings. Anyway, as I grew up, um, there was a point when my dad wanted me to go to an event.
Uh-huh.
That was the very first time he ever told me about it. Okay, he wouldn't care. He wouldn't care less. I was always playing, and he wouldn't care less. One evening, I was about to go out to play, and he said, "Masood, you're not going out to play tonight because I want you to come with me tonight, to attend a program." So that was a game changer for me. Like the person whom I met, he was not a sheikh or something like that, but he was a legit human being who really cared for the deen of Allah. Mostly sheikhs, they don't care about the deen of Allah. They are there for a salary. They do 5 times of prayer in the mosque, and they take their salaries and they're happy. You know what I mean? They don't really care about the future of Islam. That's been my experience. So this individual who came down to the masjid and he wanted to stir up the young people thinking about Islam, thinking about the Quran. So that was my first experience dealing with the Quran. Like he gave the Quran in our hands and he said, "What do you think Allah is talking here? Can you come up with your own explanation? What is Allah wanting you to think about this?" So that was the very first session I held the Quran in my hand, which was an English Quran. But even before that, I was reading the Arabic Quran, which I did not understand a word. So that was the very first time he handed over an English Quran with the meanings, So I'm reading it for the very first time, and I read the verse "Summum bukumun umyun fahum la yarji'un," and and I came up with an explanation of what it meant, and that was the beginning. So I started reading the Quran ever since that point in time in English. I never went back to the Arabic, which I did not understand at that point in time. Okay.
Yeah.
So I read the meanings and it just sank into my heart. That was the very first time I comprehended the message of God. I heard all these stories in my life until I was like 18, but it didn't really make meaning to my life, like how I would live it. You know what I mean? But the very first time I read the Quran in English, that made meaning to me, and I took the words from the Lord on my heart. I mean, at that point, people would tell me, "You got to pray, you got to pray, you got to pray," but I wouldn't care less. I wouldn't just skip the prayers. Like it would
Yeah.
mean nothing to me. You know what I mean? Just keep the prayers. What's up? What's the big deal? You know what I mean? But through the Quran, when God tells me to pray, and then I started to pray, because the Lord told me, not because the Sheikh told me or because my mom and dad told me, not because of that, because my Lord instructed me to pray. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was fascinating. This is what I'm 100% sure this is what the young generation is missing. All they do is learn Islam from their shuyukhs, and it goes to rubbish bin. They
Uh-huh.
never take the message on board. They never take it onto their hearts. They never practice it. They never live it, just because they're taking it from their sheikhs. Okay, if they took it from the Quran directly, it would have a different impact on individuals. Anyway, long story short, that was my journey, and I studied the. Once I went through the meanings, I was very enthusiastic to learn the language. So I called in some, alims who knew the language, lughat, sarf wa nahu and stuff like that, the grammatical structure of the Quran and everything. So I started learning language there, and that went on for a few years, um, until before I came to Australia. I was learning lughat. I even quit my job as an engineer, and I went to madrasa, to learn the language
Wow.
in India.
Like, sorry, I've been very silent because I've not been wanting to interrupt you, but
Sure.
me hearing this, you don't understand how much respect I have for someone like you. It's not
Okay.
easy what you did. I have
Mm,
immense
mm,
respect because, especially in the times we live in today, and especially, I'm sure you can relate as well of us, Indians, Bangladeshis, etc., and our parents, they
mm.
do push for us, in terms of career, gaining loads of properties, etc. But Alhamdulillah,
Yeah.
it's almost like you sacrifice some of your dunya for the sake of the
Mm.
akhirah, the hereafter. And I think that's one reason why, if anything, Allah will reward you even more. So may Allah bless you and may Allah keep you sincere in the work that you do.
Thank you for your prayers. So,
Mm.
so
I
when
mean,
I came to when I mean even before I came to Australia,
yeah,
I'd been to different places from work. I lived in States for some time, and I interacted with people of the book and atheists in the States. Some of them were very good people, and one of my friends in California, now he's become a believer. I used to have a lot of dialogue with him, but now he called me and he said, "Monsieur, I believe." You know what I mean? So that was happy news to hear from him. So when I came to Australia, it was shocking because Australia is a different place on earth, really. Like people here were abusing Christ when I came here. It was Christmas. They were having holidays, and they were at the same time abusing Jesus Christ. I was shocked. I was like, how come these white people are abusing Christ? For what good reason? And
yeah,
sooner I found out the society was, you know, totally corrupt of faith. They had abandoned faith altogether, and they were actively inviting people of faith into atheism. On Sundays, they would have Sunday assemblies, wherein they would actively invite people to quit church and join their Sunday assemblies to celebrate atheism and stuff like that. So that was one of the meetings that I went to
Yeah.
in my very first month in Australia, because that's something that I've been doing back in the States too, just going to the different churches, meeting people. Um, so when I came here, straight away, I went to this meeting and I caught up with a person whom I deeply respect. He's still my friend, and he's reading the Quran that I'm translating now.
Yeah.
Uh, so we have had a relationship in the past 10 years, me and Peter. His name is Peter.
Okay.
He's a wonderful person, wonderful human being, but just an atheist. Not an atheist these days. He says
More
I
like
mean,
agnostic.
obviously, yeah, obviously he hasn't had an experience with me, and
You
I
brought
kind
him
of
closer.
convinced him. I kind of convinced him
Yeah.
to be at least be an atheist.
Uh,
So, which I mean, he's a man of character. I deeply respect him, and he's a lion-hearted person. Like he
yeah.
never backed down from debating me.
Yeah.
Most of the Muslim shuyukhs in Adelaide,
Yeah.
where I live, they don't even talk to me.
Why?
Maybe some of them are jealous that I wrote these books or whatever. One of the sheikhs, he told me, he communicated to me,
Uh-huh.
"You're not even a hafiz, so your books are not credible." I said, "What and hafiz have to do with an exegesis of the Quran?"
Mhm.
I mean, hafiz is a hafiz, and you are a sheikh giving Juma khutbah,
Uh-huh.
Juma sermons, and if this is your learning, your teaching, what is the community learning from you?
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, look, these are the people that are leading us today, unfortunately. And
Look,
Muslims,
I have to let me stop you there for a second.
sure.
It's important though, we don't generalize all shayukh of that one sheikh that you met. So when
In
you say that
Adelaide,
these
my
are the
experience in
yeah,
Adelaide, my experience has been really bad. With
sure, but you
m-
can't
most,
generalize your experiences and impose it upon us. That, for
yeah,
example, the rest of
no,
Muslims.
no,
Because, for
no.
example, I've came across many shayukh who are some of those most humble and sincere people, and if anything, they'll
Mm,
probably encourage you and say, "Yeah, write that book. As long as that book is accordance to the Quran and Sunnah, and you're not saying anything against Islam itself, then no
mm.
problem. It doesn't matter whether you're Hafiz or not. You
Yeah, I
understand?"
mean,
So,
I'm not saying that there are not
yeah,
good people in the world. I'm not saying
yeah.
that
No,
because
no, no. But
some of my
because
teachers
you
back
said
home, like in India,
yeah, yeah.
they
Because
love
you're
my
saying
work. I mean,
you said
yeah.
some of the shaykh, these are the shayukhs that are leading us today.
Yes,
So-
In Adelaide where I live, these are the shuyukhs that are leading us, which is
oh,
very
okay,
unfortunate.
okay. Yeah, in
Okay,
your area. Yeah, yeah, I got you.
it's very unfortunate. Okay,
Uh-huh.
none of them was happy. Can you get it? Can you get this feeling on board? I have been
Yeah.
writing these books, and it's 5 years now. I have been asking these people to fund my work. Not a cent came from them. Okay, not a cent. All right, and moreover, they're not happy. They think it's not credible work, and they even think they don't owe me nothing. They don't even consider my books worthwhile reading. So I told them, look guys, then what is watawaso bil haqqi? What does that mean? Watawaso bil haqq, what does that mean? If you owe me nothing, not even a read of my book to assess whether it benefits the Muslim community or not, then what is watawaso bil haqqi means? What does it mean to you? And there's no answer. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to condemn Muslims, or
Yeah.
I'm a Muslim myself. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, why do you think our situation in the world is too bad? Why? Because we have people like this. We have people like this, and this is a sorry state. We have to acknowledge this. We have to acknowledge. We have to find out a way to move out of this. Um, it's a sorry state, to be honest. And yeah, and when I came here, I met atheists, and I had years of debates, and they took me to. They gave me several books, which I read. One of the books I liked the most was "Why Evolution Is True" from Jerry A. Coyne. He's a biologist in the University of Chicago. He wrote a fantastic book. Of all the books that I was given to read, I tried to read them, but I lost interest. Some of the books, three fourth, I didn't finish it. Some of the books halfway, I didn't finish it. But this book is so well written, and the author kept asking, "Where is God? Where is God? Where is God? Where is God?" on every salient point he makes in his book. Excuse me. So um, I read the book cover to cover, and when I finished it, I had a response in my brain. I knew how to respond to that. Okay, because I had read the Quran so much. I had a background in biology. I had my biology as my subject in my 12th. So
Huh?
it all made sense to me, and I had a response in my brain because I was a fan of watching Animal Planet, National Geographic channels, and all the Animal Kingdom. You know what I mean? I was a fan. I'm still a fan of watching Animal Kingdom. So I knew a response to Richard Dawkins' books and um, this guy Jerry Acoin's "Why Evolution Is True." Okay, but I did not end up writing it first. Obviously, when I came to Australia, writing a book was not on my mind. It was never on my mind, and English obviously was second language in India, so I was never particularly keen in scripting a book in English. That was not crossing my mind any day. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, after several years of interactions with my with this community here, atheistic community, they forced me to write a response that was a fuller answer to a question. You know, I was giving them parts and bits and pieces from the Quran to read as answers to their questions, which they came back to me and said, you know, these are cherry picked bits. They don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
Look at how our experts produce um, elucidations of concepts. They write full books. They've got a full answer to concepts. And the kind of he kind of forced me to write a fuller response at, at which I I left whatever I was doing to survive. Basically, I broke down at that point. I said, I was not born to do these mean work jobs or whatever it is. I'm
Yeah.
an engineer. I worked as an engineer.
Yeah.
It's time to give it a shot for the sake of God. It was Ramadan. It was starting Ramadan. You know,
Yeah.
I made my niyyah today. Tomorrow was first day of Ramadan.
Yeah.
I said, I'm quitting my job today again for the sake of God, and I will give it a try this Ramadan. I will sit home and I'll write a fuller response, and we'll see what comes up. So I quit my job and I sat the whole Ramadan. I spent at my house writing a response, and that was my first book, Ancient Astronomy. And by the end of Ramadan, there was already so much material in my manuscript. I was like, wow, it can be a book now. I was like, I was like shocked. I mean, I couldn't believe that it just came about. I just disbelieved myself. You know what I mean? And then after that, I couldn't go back to work. I just continued for the next 6 months, making it a good book, you know, so that people can read and understand. To be honest, after the first month that I wrote the manuscript, I gave it to my wife, and she said she couldn't understand anything from it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I said, "Wow, I spent a month, and there is so much there, and you telling me you can't understand even anything at all?" And she said, "Yes, I can't understand anything at all because so much is still in your brain that you have to write and fill up all the gaps so that people can understand." So I approached the Islamic centers here, like Dava centers, and I told them, "Look, man, this is the project I'm doing. It needs some funds. Can you fund my project?" And they gave me a blunt response. They said no. Okay. I said, okay, there you go. And I sat down. I said, Bismillah. I sat down. I took some money. I borrowed some money from my family. Alhamdulillah, Allah helped me to pay them back. You know.
Yep.
And I wrote this book. And after 6 months, I gave it to my friend. I printed it. I gave it to my friend, and he read it. And the first time I I saw his voice pitched down, the first time, the very first time, he sort of gave in. You know, he said, "Masood, um, we have to check this with an expert who is not a Muslim, who can verify the Arabic um, and tell us that you are doing a fair job and you're not really manipulating, you know, and stuff like that. You know what I mean?" So the first time he gave in and he said it needs to be checked by an non-Muslim Arabic expert to verify what you're doing is the right thing. You know what I mean? So, and then he said, "Okay, I'm interested to know what does the Quran say about evolution, origins of life or whatever." And that's when I wrote my second book, which is titled "Origins of Life" and "Creation of Earth and Origins of Life." And during all this period, we continued to debate, like our debates, and the atheist group became the first people to hold a book launch for me. None of the Muslims cared. They don't. They even banned us. The Muslims in Adelaide, they took me and my wife out of the Facebook group. We are not part of the community. They just took us out. They knocked me down because I had an argument about how our scholars are not doing the proper thing, and they knocked my wife out of the Facebook group because my wife posted my book, and so they took her out. Anyway, I've got a history with the community here, the Muslim community. I'm not really happy with. Okay, so coming back to the point, the atheists ended up hosting my book launch. Some of them read, some of them are scientists, and they work for defense and stuff like that. They gave me the same sort of opinions. They said, "Monsieur, it's fantastic work." And after that, they went back and they read the Quran. They came back to tell me Quran is beautiful, but we need somebody to like wet your work. Like you're a Muslim, so obviously you carry a bias to interpret your work in certain way. But we want a non-Muslim Arabic expert to verify what you've written is correct. And I did go around my neighbors, some of my neighbors who are Buddhist, but Westerners, like white people who have given up Christianity and have become Buddhist. They read the book and they came back and knocked my door and they told me, Masood, I believe this. Whatever you've written here, I believe it. Those are the sort of feedbacks that I got from people who read the book. And I took this book to wherever possible I could. Some of the scholars, I sent them the links, but nobody responded. I sent it to American scholars. This Yasir Khadi, this Omar Suleiman, this guy, yeah, Pakistani guy. What is his name? Uh, I forgot his name. Anyway, wherever I tried to reach out to the mosques in UK because I also visited UK during my work. I was in Wolverhampton and I met a sheikh there. At the time, I was friends with him. I also sent him those links to read, but nobody responded back to me. But that's fine. People are busy. I understand that. And after that, I took and gave it to some astronomers here, in the University of South Australia here. That astronomer was delighted to take the book because she is from Lebanon, an Arabic but Christian, but atheist now. She's given up Christianity, so she's Arabic atheist from Lebanon, astronomer here in Adelaide. I gave the book to her, and she was delighted to take it, and she said she will read it. But as you know, everyone is busy. Everyone is busy, so I'll leave it there. I don't know what people are doing with my book that I've gave copies of them to. Um, I also gave it to one of the people here, and I told him, see, if you don't want to read it, give it to this Mufti Menk who is coming. Give it to him. If he approves it, then you will have faith in it. But I don't know whether they did it or not. Okay, I don't care now. Anyway, long story short, um, after that, I I mean, during our discussions with atheism, they had one strong concern. They thought Islam was cruel. Islam had a law that was like cruel. The Sharia was cruel. It doesn't fit into 21st century. So how can you even have this religion today for people and stuff like that? We had a great debate about how cruel was like God in the Bible and the Quran was all the same and stuff like that. So I had to write this response, and that's when I wrote my book, the third book, Sharia for Australians, explaining how beneficial Sharia would prove to be to Australia if Australia embraces Islam and implements Sharia. And that was my third book. And after that book, I really became disheartened the way that Muslim community was responding. They even threatened me to call police on me if I kept pushing on them, in the mosque that I was going to. And that's the time I stopped going to the mosque, because the police did show up at my house. The terrorism experts came one morning. They knocked my door and they said, they just want to talk to me. I said, "Who sent you here?" But they didn't reveal it. Um, they they had an interview with me, um, and I gave them answers basically, and they never bothered me after that. But after this episode, I really decided, there's no point in being part of this community anymore, because they don't even understand the simplest things, their responsibilities. They're happy having a salary at the end of the day from the mosque, from the donations they collect from people, but they're not being responsible for people, their future, for the sake of Allah, for Allah's deen. How Allah's deen is being misrepresented, misunderstood, misdirected, decried upon. They don't care nothing, man. I mean, this is my experience here in Adelaide. They are so self-centric. They just want a paycheck. At the end of the day, they're happy, and they want to teach little kids. Alif ba ta. They want to teach that to little kids. They don't want no greater responsibility than that. Okay, some of the shuyukhs, they have a job as a teacher in Islamic school. They have a job. I mean, if he is an imam, his job should be to lead the Muslim community and to navigate the Muslim community out of the problems. But he's got a job. He's taken a job. But this is crap. I don't like it. And okay, I couldn't care less. I I should do what Allah wants me to do, and what I read from the Quran, the commands. I have to respect and honor them. So I went on. I wasted a year in between, just trying to figure out what I should do next. Um, and even my atheist friends were gotten busy with their sort of work, and they had busy schedule. They couldn't talk to me anymore like they used to talk before. So I went out scouting different churches in town. I met different sort of people in different churches, had long conversations with them that went on for months. Some of them were short, some of them were very, really, really, really long. And the, there is benefits in those all sorts of discussions that I had from different people. I learned a great deal, and I kept on studying the Bible too. And after a year of vagrancy, if you want to call it that way, because I didn't do anything productive during that time, except that I was talking to some people and wasting my time playing chess, basically. So then I thought, no, I've wasted time. I should do something that was on my mind for sure. But then it directly did not click me. I started streaming, and streaming on um, Twitch, for example, to attract people to talk to them about God and everything while playing chess. Because chess is so big deal today. Like millions of youngsters are in chess. So I thought I might as well get to talk to youngsters playing whilst playing chess with them. So I created a YouTube channel called God Network, and I played chess and spoke to a few people while I did that. But eventually I gave up because it's hardly one or two people that are talking to me, and it's not worth my time to keep spending long sessions with them. So I realized to close that down and once again do a serious work. And I because all of my atheists friends whom I was asking to read the Quran online, they would come back to me and they would tell me, Masood, why is this Quran so discontinuous? It changes so much. The language is not um, comprehensive. The language is very, very old English, and it's not sufficient. Um, we are having difficulty to understand the Quran. That's what they would tell me. I knew that personally, especially I've written after writing these three books. I knew where the Quranic translations were lacking in a way, like in putting the message out in a very modern way that people would relate to. So I said Bismillah, and I started off doing the translation. And Alhamdulillah, just 3 months ago, I finished the raw manuscript, like the raw translation from Arabic to English. And since then, I have been modernizing it, like making it very legible to read. And I'm very happy with the progress. Hopefully, by the year end, I should be able to finish it, inshallah. And my kids are super enthusiastic. They're learning from me, and I'm happy about it. This project is for my kids. I want them to teach the other kids at school about the Quran. Okay, so this project is for my kids. So inshallah, we will see where it goes. And I'm really happy, and I feel blessed from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. I'm really grateful. My mom, she told me this time when I went to India, she told me that she had actually made a dua to Allah when we went to Umrah. She said, use my boy for 10 years in your services. That's the dua my mom made, and this is my 10th year. And I'm really happy with the fruits that I have produced during this 10 years. So this is the blessing of God. I surely counted on it. And I want Allah to forgive my sins, the numerous that I do day in, day out, and accept my good work and bless me with paradise. I mean, I want nothing else. You know what I mean? So that's my story. So now you can talk.
Okay, no worries. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Just a few things. Sorry, I hope you could appreciate I didn't interrupt you as well.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
very patient with you. What I was gonna say is, was there anyone who kind of went through your book and found any problems with it?
I gave it to a couple of organizations,
Dawah
um,
organizations?
Dava organizations.
Okay.
I posted it, and one of the guys read, and he picked up a vague sort of stylistic articulation that I made in the book. I was accusing white people, and I was accusing you white people, you're not serious in your commitments to read the book of God, sort of thing, which my white friends, white people, they didn't take any offense from it. But this guy, a Muslim guy, an Arab Muslim guy from Melbourne, whom I posted my book to read and assess it, whether it benefits the community or not, he took offense. Oh, blah blah blah. You're talking very mean about white people. I said, forget about it. We can erase it off. I can take it off from my manuscript, and you please assess the work, whether it benefits Muslim community or not. And he said no, blah blah blah, and whatever. He posted the book back to me, and I said, okay, what can I do? I
Yeah,
mean,
got you.
I mean, I think there's an ego crash here. Ego, there's this ego coming in between. And some of them think I'm not they ask me whether I have a certificate from a madrasa, from Al Azhar or from somewhere else. You know what I mean? I said, I couldn't care less for your certificates. You keep it. My certificate is the books, the award of the books that God has given me, the knowledge. These are my certificates. If you want to verify, you read them and you verify. And if you can show mistakes, I will be happy to consider them, because I don't want mistakes to be there in my books. You know what I mean? But okay, it's up to them. I couldn't care less after encouraging them so much and personally handing them over copies with my own money, printing them. You know what I mean? They're not even paying for it. I'm
Yeah,
printing it. I'm handing over them the copies, and they're being so mean in their responses. What can I say?
I understand. Yeah, no, like you know, especially like for me as well. Like, I'm not sure if you saw my discussion with Aladdin. I'm not
Mm.
sure if you listened to the whole thing. Did you or
I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I did
okay?
listen to the conversation where you were having uh, about good people,
Yeah. What
whether
did you think? Did you think I maybe said anything wrong that maybe you disagreed with, or like, do you remember some of the points
no.
that I made? Yeah.
I think I wanted to actually talk Aladdin about it.
What did you want to
If
say?
I wanted to say, I wanted him to define basically what is good. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's what I asked him to do, and his criteria was anyone who doesn't harm people. So then I responded to that. I said, what you consider harmful, what
mm,
you may consider not harmful, I may consider harmful, and
mm,
what I may consider not harmful, you may consider harmful. So who
yeah,
decides what is harmful or not?
yeah. But
You
I
see
think
my point? It's a very simple argument, but
yes, it is. I mean,
yeah,
it is a simple argument.
yeah,
But Aladdin should have come up with a with an objective definition of what good is. I can see the point that Aladdin was trying to make. The point
yeah,
that he was trying to make, which he never got to, I suppose, because the direction um, drifted a little bit. Like
yeah.
when you were talking, it drifted a little bit. But I know I can sense what he was coming at.
What
He
was
had
he
a
trying to
point in.
say?
He was trying to say in the Quran, God doesn't care about good people because He says, "I will فَأَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالُهُمْ." I will drop their good work. I will make it null and void. You know what I mean? So he was eventually. I suppose I am assuming he was coming towards it to make this point that the Quran does not care about good people because the Quran says, فَأَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالُهُمْ, the good works done by people who don't believe in Allah, Allah will make it null and void. So he was trying to get to this point. So what did you think? Could you make this out from him?
I, the thing is, I don't know if he was gonna say that because I don't. We
Mm.
spoke for a very long time, so he definitely had
Mm-mm.
the chance to say that if he wanted
Mhm.
to,
He
but
didn't
he
have the
didn't
chance.
say it.
He didn't have the chance because you did not budge. You did not budge from your position that actually goodness was a relative social
Yeah,
construct. So what is good in Saudi Arabia may not be really good uh, in Western society, for example. Um, in Saudi Arabia, people may be living in a certain way, doing things the way they do, and considering that behavior to be good behavior. But the same behavior would not apply as good behavior necessarily in the Western world. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I
So
get you.
you kind of hung on to this point in a way, in a different way,
Yeah.
but you kind of hung
Would
on
you
to
say
this
I was
point.
wrong? Would you say I was wrong to do that?
It is not wrong, but the fuller argument is what is important. The
Yeah,
fuller argument is I would ask him, instead of arguing with him, I would ask him, what is the definition of good? How do you define good? If you say it's as long as you don't harm other people, I would then tell him it's incomplete.
yeah,
It's a very subjective definition. It's incomplete. The more objective definition would be, and I would continue thereafter. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you we have. I mean, Aladdin is a guy who has organized his arguments in a sort of um, episteme. He understands episteme and ontology and these connections of different fields of knowledge. He has fair amount of understanding because I'm sure he might have read some of the books that describe knowledge in this fashion. So he has some understanding of these different facets of social sciences. So he wanted to make a point. So when you talk to such person, I think we have to be, um, in a way, objective at getting at what he's wanting to say and wanting to make his point. So we have to allow him, prod him to make to finish his point, like the end point, and then we can give him an argument from the Quran, and it'll suffice. For example, the Quran, it says, if you do not acknowledge truth, technically you're not a good person. That's the definition of the Quran. Okay. If you do not acknowledge truth, technically you're not a good person. Although you may be a good person to your family, you may be providing, caring to your family and to your neighbors, but because you technically reject truth, I mean, you don't accept truth, you're technically wrong. You're technically a bad person. That makes you bad. That makes you bad. It's not that how other people would see you as a good person, helping, kind. You may have good nature, but you are denying the truth. So denying the truth technically is wrong. and it's treated as bad with God. Okay, so this is what he needs to understand. So the definition of what is good, not harming people is fine. It's good between people. It's good, um, but it's not necessarily good in an objective way when you reject truth, because rejecting truth has greater harm to humanity. Like for example, if businesses, like some of the big businesses, they reject truth, they lie to the government, right? They reject truth, they lie to the government to do what? To save taxes, right? And those taxes are not ordinary money, they are huge chunks of money, there are millions of dollars worth of money, right? So because you are hiding the truth, because you're giving false to truth, you're causing greater harm that you cannot scale up to. You can't really fathom how much damage you are causing. You know what I mean? So the technical definition of good would be to give false to truth. When truth is presented to you, you don't acknowledge it, you give false to it, you're technically bad. So in that regard, I would consider all of the scholars that I've met here, Islamic scholars, who have not been sincere in their duty to assess my work, whether it will benefit the Muslim community or not. I consider them to be bad Muslims. I consider them to be bad people because they're technically rejecting truth. For example, especially the scholar who told me that I need to be a hafiz to be able to write credible work. That is a blatant lie. So that is like giving lie to the truth. So where did he get it from? He's a Muslim. He should know that that is a lie, but he doesn't know. So even though he doesn't know or uh, come to terms with it, it is still a lie, because you don't have to be a hafiz to be able to write the commentary of the Quran, right? For example, so a lot of Muslims too fall in that category of being bad people because they are rejecting truth fundamentally. So even atheists, for example, they're rejecting the existence of God. What is the evidence? They don't have. So aren't they good to say? Aren't they justified to say we don't know whether God exists or not? So we are better off being agnostic. So if they took that position, they would be just and they would be good people at least. But since they take a position without evidence to deny the existence of God, that makes them necessarily bad people because they don't have evidence and because they're citing a view that is that cannot be furnished with truth, with justification, with substantiation of any sort. It makes them necessarily liars, and it makes them bad people because of their lie. They may be good people helping out their family and their neighbors. That is secondary. That is a relative um, social construct of how people would judge each other as good people or bad people. But objectively, because the man rejects truth, he is technically bad. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, no, no, no. I totally understand that.
Mm,
The thing is, you know, like especially with me, I'm very direct, and when
mm,
was discussing like with apostate Aladdin, right? And I was talking about
mm,
the good and this and that. So his argument, it's just he doesn't understand, right? We don't believe, right? A
mm,
good, honest, sincere person can still be a
mm.
disbeliever. He says it in a hypothetical way. Oh, but what if the person is good, honest, he's sincere, and he's a disbeliever?
No, that's the thing.
We
That's
said
the thing.
we
He's
said the
he's
thing
not
is, yeah,
sincere
yeah, he's not sincere. That's exactly it. He's not sincere because he
because
wants to
no
appeal to the
because
viewers. We
no
believe this
because
kind of person is fictitious. They don't exist. You can't be sincere,
no. Even if he
honest.
exists,
He'll eventually become Muslim anyway. That's is our point. He'll be.
no,
There's
no,
no way
no,
Allah wouldn't guide a sincere, honest person to Islam.
no.
It's
Yeah,
as
yeah. This
simple as
is
that.
no, no. This is the trouble. This is the
Yeah,
trouble he didn't understand.
yeah,
The argument was laid in a from a back end. You drew the argument from a back end.
yeah,
You said if the man is sincere, Allah would definitely guide him, right?
yeah,
This is a back end argument. If you what I was expecting to hear or listen to was,
yeah,
if a man was sincere, he wouldn't conclude that God does not exist when he has no evidence for it. So that tells you that the man who concludes there is no God is not sincere. You know what I mean? So you hold him there, yeah, a very direct front end argument to convince him that a man is not sincere, not entirely good, just because he is denying God's existence when he has no evidence. So when he cannot justify, cannot substantiate, cannot ratify his claim or assertion, and he goes on to assert that God does not exist, is an enormity on his part. He's he's violating the principles of ethical behavior to assert something for which he has no evidence.
Yeah.
So that position is a motivated position. So that position is necessarily a false position because you don't have evidence and justification. So that makes you not good person, and that makes you a insincere person. Then you can tell him, if you were really legit sincere, if you were really good person, then God would guide you. You know what I mean?
No, that's literally what I said, right? That's literally what I said. I
I know,
said, yeah.
but you made a back end argument, which he
What you
did not
say?
understand because
Yeah,
he hung on to the point that there are good people, there are absolutely sincere people.
right. And
He hung on to it. He
he
never
wants to
understood.
clear. I know,
He
and
never
do you
understood.
know what he want? He wants me to agree with that, but I'm not going to agree with that because we
No,
don't believe such people
because
exist.
no,
We
no,
believe
no,
these people are
no.
fictitious. They don't exist.
Ryan,
Yeah,
given the credit that such people exist, we have
yeah,
to give them the credit that such people exist. Okay, but those people who exist, they are not atheists because they will not make an insincere argument. They will
yeah.
not assert something for which they don't have evidence.
Right, exactly,
So
exactly.
if a person asserts something and he has no evidence to substantiate it, that means he's insincere. This
Of
is the
course,
point that I was looking
it's not
forward.
coming from a place of logic, but it's coming from a place of
Yeah,
emotion
this is what I
somewhere in it.
was looking forward, that you will make a point to make him understand. If you had made
Yeah.
this point, then he would have accepted or proceeded. You know, he would have.
Repeat that. Repeat that point again.
See, a man who asserts God does not exist and
Yeah,
has no evidence to justify it
yeah.
cannot be sincere.
But look, Masood, this is where the
Yeah.
problem arises. Remember who I'm
Mm.
speaking to. I'm speaking to Apostate Aladdin. You and I
Yes.
both know that his mindset is purely based upon the mindset of an apostate. He's, of course, he's going to have his own biases, right? So he can reply to that argument like this. You see the argument you just made? He can reply like this. He said, wait, hold on 1 second. How can you genuinely prove the existence of God? How can you actually do that?
Okay. I have
There's
the
no way
answers
you
for
can.
that.
There's no way you can do that with certainty. He would argue. If that's the
No,
case, then
no,
all of us would
no,
believe.
no. Look, there's a very clear cut answer to this. All right.
Okay, go
There
ahead.
is a science experiment that people have worked on, and they
Uh,
have found out belief is natural to human beings. Little kids as old as 2-year-olds
I know. There's
exhibit.
studies of that from Oxford University. From Oxford
Absolutely. So this is
University. But
natural. Now, what I'm saying is, this is natural. And if you want to teach people that God does not exist, you
yeah,
have to literally school them out of it. Like even
yeah,
atheist parents,
yeah.
they have to school their kids out of the belief system because belief system is natural to human beings. Okay. When there is such a
He
when there
would
is no no
dispute
no
that. He would
no
say,
no.
no. How can a child just immediately grow up thinking that there is a God?
I mean, there is a
He
science
said he wouldn't.
experiment. He can't refute it.
Yeah, yeah,
I have that experiment. I have the paper
yeah,
with me. I
yeah,
can show him the paper. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I can show him the he can't refute it.
yeah.
So the moment people disbelieve, it is a
Uh-huh,
motivated position to subscribe to.
uh-huh.
Okay. I was about to talk to him today if he had allowed me to talk to him today.
Yeah,
Um, but anyway, there will come a time he will eventually talk to me. If
yeah.
not today, another time or whatever it is. But
Because he's saying it's a circular reasoning. Do you know he kept saying that
no,
multiple times? He kept saying it's circular, it's circular, it's circular.
you should ask him.
Yes.
You should stop, and you should stop at that point. You should stop, and you should ask him what is the circular argument.
This is the circular argument. Okay, I'll tell you. He says
Hmm.
it's circular because of this. He said, um, what is it? So it starts off like this, yeah.
Mm.
God will not send a sincere person to hell. And then the next argument is, well, how do you know that? Because God is the most just. And then the next argument is, well, let's say he says as well, well, how do you know that? Because uh, as it's one of his traits, therefore, uh, it would go against his trait for God to send a sincere person to hell. So he says
That
with
that is
that
a
is
circular
circular reason.
argument.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
definitely a circular argument.
yeah,
We are not even talking about this to him, right?
yeah,
I'm not even talking about God sending him to hellfire and stuff like that
yeah,
because God is just. I'm not making those arguments with him. I'm
yeah.
just talking whether God exists or not, whether there's evidence or not.
But Masood,
Yeah.
this is the thing. You
Mm,
know, you're mentioning for me to bring this up. This is exactly what I tried to do, but he didn't want to
mm,
proceed in that discussion. He didn't want to go through that direction. I told
mm,
him, I said, look, for you to thoroughly understand this, you first need to know whether God actually exists or not. That's
mm.
the main question that needs answering. This isn't the
Absolutely. So,
question. For you
so you
to
should
even
just.
get further in the conversation, we need to first even know, is there a God?
Mm, you
Okay,
should not talk to him about
to
other
know that
things.
there's a God, how can we test that there is a creator? Okay,
Ryan,
yeah,
critical thinker.
yeah, yeah,
My point to you is you
yeah,
should not bring other topics in the discussion where he can be diverted. You know what I mean?
yeah,
When you tell him about God is just, he gets diverted into
yeah.
um, attacking you on a different area.
Area,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
so he comes and tells you, no, this is a circular argument. Don't make that argument. So you should be focused in getting things out of him, like really, really focused on one single point and solve the point first, right? So you should talk about how did you conclude God doesn't exist?
yeah.
You just ask him, how do you conclude God
Because
does
he
not
says a
exist?
lack of evidence.
It doesn't, lack of evidence doesn't prove anything, right? It doesn't disprove God's existence, right?
So he would argue. He said he cannot with certainty disprove that God doesn't exist, but he doesn't have enough
Okay,
evidence for him to
then you have
confidently
to tell him,
believe
you're
God
not an
exists.
atheist. You have to be an agnostic. Do you recognize that? So you have to pin him and
Mm.
say, you're not an atheist. You're an agnostic. Do you acknowledge it?
Yeah,
So once he acknowledges it, yes, he will say, yes, okay, I acknowledge that I'm not an atheist. I'm an agnostic because I don't know whether God exists or not exist.
yeah,
And then you can proceed. You can proceed. I believe
yeah,
for this reason. Why I believe God exists is for this reason, and then you have to give your reasoning why you believe God exists.
yeah.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I understand.
Mm,
It's like take one step by step, you know. So first, for him to acknowledge, okay, you're not an atheist. Second step,
mhm,
for him to concede that he's an agnostic, and then move
mhm.
from there. So if you're an
Exactly
agnostic,
right. Mm.
what can we now use to decide whether a creator exists? What's the criteria that we can use, and kind of go one by one, basically? Yeah, that makes
There are
sense.
there are two criterias.
But you know, sorry, Messi, before you say that, yeah, the reason
Mm,
why, so I did mention about how really the main question we should be asking is whether God exists, but the reason why I mentioned about the God is just, etc., is because
mm,
that is actually also one of the most direct answers that you can genuinely give, and I'm someone who I don't shy away from giving a direct answer. Now,
mm,
whether Apostate Aladdin has a agenda which is insincere and he wants to steer the conversation to a different direction, that just speaks
mm,
volumes about him and his own character. Do you understand? This is his
mm,
problem. But the reason why I
mm.
mentioned about God is just is because that really is the case, right? It's a simple thing, right?
But you don't have
If
to
God,
mention that. It's
no,
irrelevant
no,
because he doesn't even believe in God. You see?
no, no, no. I know, but the reason why he
Mm.
has these streams is because he wants to understand the reasoning that us Muslims use or why we believe it.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, so that's just one of the reasons I'm saying. So he
No,
for
see,
so
I'm of
I
the
made a claim to
opinion.
him. I made a
Mm.
claim, right? I said there's no person who is in hell who didn't deserve to be in hell. There's a
See,
reason
look,
that they are in hell in the first place.
I wouldn't argue.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bring forward these arguments to him. I wouldn't
Okay.
do it. I
Okay.
wouldn't talk to
But do you
him
get why I
about.
did it?
Uh, I, I I think when you did
Yeah.
it, you actually ended up wasting a lot of time with him
Okay.
because the guy doesn't really believe in it. the guy doesn't believe in hell. He doesn't believe God exists.
I know he's not going to believe. Of course, he's an apostate. I know that
So
already.
why are you
But
making
for
arguments to him?
the,
That is
the reason,
pointless.
as long, even if he disagrees, as long, just
Mm.
so we can see why, what our reasoning is, what one of our reasons are.
No, you're actually
Yeah.
wasting time with him by arguing in this fashion.
Mhm.
That's my humble opinion, because the guy doesn't believe in it. So if you make those arguments again and again, he would come to think you're making a repetitive argument, you're making a circular argument, which he thinks has he has a superior argument
Yeah.
than the argument that you're giving him, right? So there's no point persuading him to tackle the arguments of God is just,
Yeah.
God will not punish if you don't deserve it.
Yeah.
No, there's no need for that, my dear friend.
Yeah.
You have to be very objective. That's what I'm telling you. You got to be very objective with him. Go
Mm,
step by step, attack him where he deserves to be attacked, and then
yeah.
get the answers out of him, and or let him concede.
Yeah.
I believe he's a good person, because I have interacted with few other ex-Muslims. They're horrible, horrible people.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even feel like talking to them.
Yeah.
But because they're spreading such false beliefs,
Yeah.
somehow my heart is, wrenched, and I want to just go and
Yeah.
tell them that what doing is wrong things. But they're
That's
horrible
it. Yeah.
people. This guy
No. Yeah.
Aladdin, he's a gentleman. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, he
He
does seem a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
he's
this is the
yeah.
but this is exactly the reason why Masudia is. Look, I know he's not going to agree with what I say. I know
Mhm.
whatever answer I give, he's not going to be pleased by. But
No, you should
still,
not make that
it's
assumption. You should not make that assumption. You should think positive about him, because once you are pessimistic in approach with him through your dialogue,
yeah.
then you will not cut ice. You know what I mean?
No, 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 no. But
You will not be
you
able
and
to make
I,
progress.
no, no, no. But you and I both
Mm,
agreed. It's not about being
mm.
negative. It's just about what's the reality. You and I both agree that he doesn't
See,
acknowledge the existence of God, so he's
no,
not going to
no,
be pleased with my answer. We know that he's an apostate. So of
no,
course,
no,
whatever I
no.
say,
Wait a
he's not
second.
going to be
No, wait a
pleased.
second, please. Wait a
Yeah.
second, please. Wait a second. Don't rush. Don't rush. Don't rush. He is an apostate, which he
Yeah.
claims himself to be. Okay,
Yeah.
we will take that on face value.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now because we are engaging with him,
Yeah.
it's our valuable time, right?
Yeah.
It's your valuable time, right? More than his valuable time, it's your valuable time that you're engaging with him,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. That's true.
So for that, to make better use of that, you make I start off making a positive assumption about the fellow,
Yeah.
hoping that if evidence is given to him, if truth is shown to him,
Yeah.
he will embrace it. He will embrace it. And there is a
You
chance,
know,
because the Quran
if
does
you see
say
the
about that.
beginning of the stream, you would
Mm,
actually see where I actually do give him respect. I'm not sure if you saw that, but
mm,
I gave him respect and I said, "Look, I'll be honest with you.
mm,
I don't speak with other ex-Muslims like Apostate Prophet. I think they're horrible
mm,
people, but you're one of the very
mm.
few people who actually comes across a lot more respectful."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he does. He
Yeah,
does. I mean,
yeah,
I've got to acknowledge that
and
he's
he
very
speaks more
gentle.
calmly.
Absolutely,
He
he's
doesn't
very gentle.
insult. He gives you a chance to, hear you out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah,
mean,
that
he
is
is all
true.
of those good things, except that he also makes caricatures, which I don't like.
Exactly. Yeah,
That initially put me off when I saw his channel and the
yeah.
caricatures of Prophet Muhammad. I said,
It's
"What is this
horrible.
guy? I don't
Yeah.
want to talk to him because it is putting me off."
It is, of
He,
course.
I wanted to tell him, "Look, we respect Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah,
So if you at least respected him, then you would actually open up,
yeah,
speaking to a lot many more Muslims than you would necessarily otherwise, and you can actually take off your mask, because if you did not disrespect Prophet Muhammad in terms of caricatures, Muslims are not keen to kill you or whatever. You know what I mean? You can have your freedom, you can take off your mask, you can be a normal person. But because you do certain things like that, it'll upset certain Muslims and things are getting out of control. Nobody can control some Muslims who are hurt, from causing harm, right?
yeah,
So I wanted to give him this advice. I wanted to tell him, don't do caricatures of Prophet Muhammad. Just respect him, and you can argue whatever
yeah.
you want to argue against
He's gonna
Islam
do
and
what he
against
wants.
Prophet Muhammad.
Unfortunately, even if you tell him a million times, I mean, look, the
No, no,
reality
he
is
might
this.
listen.
That,
He might listen. I'm
do
hopeful
you
that he
think you're
might
the
listen.
first person who hasn't told him that?
I have not yet told him, but I would want to tell him. Huh?
I'm saying, do you think you would be the first person who told him that?
I'm certainly not. People might have told him that already. His parents
That's
might
it.
have told him that.
Well, his parents probably don't
Just
even know about his YouTube channel, but I'm saying just in general, there's probably Muslims who have told him to do that,
yeah,
asked him to do that, and he
just
still
bear with me.
continues to do it.
My little kid is talking to me. Just bear with me for a
Okay.
second. For a second, please. Yeah, what is it? I- Yeah, okay. Do you want to eat something now? No? Okay, I'll give you lunch in some time, all right? Okay. Okay, yeah, please, let's continue.
Yeah. So
Mm,
look, the thing is this, right? So he asked me a very direct question. Okay.
mm,
Now, obviously, the response that I gave to him is look,
mm,
right? For us to really establish this, we need to first come to terms. Whether there is a God. How do we acknowledge that this God exists? Where can we test this? But just I also gave the answer because he asked a very direct
mm,
question, and he says that you know um, about the sincere, honest person who can still be a disbeliever. I made it clear. Firstly, number one, there's certain conditions.
mm,
For example, those who didn't receive the message and whatnot, Allah gives them a certain kind of test and trial on Judgment Day. So it's not just black and white. So the reason why I said that, just to make it short, like to his viewers, they know
mm,
it's not a black and white issue. Okay, you're a disbeliever,
mm,
therefore you're straight. We go, no, no, no. There's some people,
mm,
they may not have exactly been a Muslim, practicing Muslim, but it's because they never heard the message. So for
mm,
those people, they'll get a certain trial on Day of Judgment. Okay, so that's just
mm,
one sort of criteria, one sort of condition there. Another condition is
mm,
this, right? Is let's say someone who obviously is not isn't mentally stable, insanity. Of course,
mm,
they're not going to be held accountable, but they're going to be excused because they don't have the
mm,
mental stability. Another condition. So I'm
mm,
just this is just me showing how it's not just black and white that he's kind of trying to portray it to be. And then number
mm,
three, I said this. Look, when you say honest, sincere people who can still disbelieve and whatnot, we believe such people don't even exist. It's fictitious. To you, you
mm,
may think that they believe, of course, because you're the
mm,
apostate. And this is what I say in the conversation. I said, of course, to you, you're
mm,
going to believe that because you're the apostate, right? So you're going to believe that
mm,
in which goes against Islam and its teaching. But you have to
mm,
understand that from a Muslim paradigm, that
mm,
we don't believe such people even exist. It's fictitious. And any
mm,
people who are sincere and honest, they may be
mm.
in a state of disbelief right now, but we believe they won't die as a disbeliever. They will become a
Okay,
Muslim eventually.
they
Simple
will
point.
give you one straight argument, and
What's that?
it'll be difficult for you to dispel it.
Hit me
They
with
will
it.
say they will say most atheists are far better people ethically than most people of religion, including Islam. Look at you. Look at your own countries. How do you fight? How you disagree? You're horrible people. Most atheist people are kind-hearted, loving, humane, and ethical people. And it'll be very difficult for you to navigate through this argument. Believe me.
It- I don't think it's difficult because I can respond to that right now.
Hmm.
So
What is your answer?
okay, so my answer is this: with regard to what is ethical, who decides what's ethical or not? So for example, if I get my mother a gift, do I get her a gift that she likes or that I like? I get her a
No,
gift
look,
that she likes,
no, look,
correct?
no.
So
This argument doesn't
what's
work
it?
because they would say, "Look, we don't believe in your God figure. We don't believe.
Yeah,
We
but
don't
that
believe in." No,
but
look. Wait a second.
that's
Wait a
that
second.
that
Wait a second,
okay.
please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You gotta wait.
Yeah.
These arguments I have faced for years now. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
I have tackled these arguments. So
Yeah.
I have a way out of these arguments.
Yeah.
Okay. In short, they're gonna tell you, look, we don't believe in your God figure. We don't believe what he thinks about who's ethical. In our measure, they would tell you, you people of religion, are
Huh.
most unethical, uncultured, unkind, and they would say callous and
Yes,
despicable
Masood, you've
people
already said
because
that. You repeat
you
that. You give
fight.
me the. You
You
asked
know
me
what?
to give the answer. Let me finish giving the answer and hear me out fully, because
No,
I only
because
given you some of the answer.
the answer that you gave
You haven't even heard my
started
full
off.
answer. Where
No,
they started off or whatnot. At least hear the ending of
go
it. Yeah.
ahead,
So let me say that.
please.
Let me say the ending of it. Okay.
Okay.
So look. So you mentioned about ethic and whatnot. Number one,
Mm,
just establishing it. We need a clear criteria as to what is ethical and whatnot. Okay, sure, there are Muslims who do bad things, no doubt about it. We also believe Muslims go to hell. Okay, that's one thing, and they will be held accountable. Okay, it's
mm,
not as if they will just get a free ticket and a free pass. No,
mm,
if that was the
mm,
case, then we wouldn't have narrations even within a hadiths of Muslim people going to hell. There's a reason why. Again, Allah is the most just. He doesn't just pick and choose and give some people a free ticket. No, even for us Muslims, we will be held accountable, no doubt about it. Okay, that's one thing. And another thing is this, right, with regards to, ethical and whatnot. One second, he says ethical, right? Does he forget what kind of laws that we have in this country? And what kind of a mess society was before even religion was established within the law? Even now, why is there the reason society has so much order and security? Because of the laws that were established. And what were the laws? Were the laws based on secular, liberal, atheistic principles, or were they based on Judeo-Christian values? Judean Christian values. So religion has shown a clear benefit, and these atheists, they have taken that benefit. It's almost like they have sucked it dry, and instead of giving credit to religion, where religion deserves the credit, they're giving the credit to themselves. So this is what I would say, just a complete fallacy kind of argument from them, right?
It is.
To
I
not,
would. I
to
would
not give,
disagree.
yeah.
I would disagree
In what
for a
sense?
very
You
obvious
disagree
reason.
that you disagree with that religion hasn't allowed order and security within the land. Before that, people were killing their own daughters. Islam, for example, prohibits that. If you look at Christianity, they have the Ten Commandments. People would eat each other as human beings. Religion has came and established laws, has established principles. What kind of how would atheists come up with these rules themselves? These rules were established, right? Because from a creator, objective rules.
No, if you go back to,
Yeah.
like, for example, if you want to go back to um, people of Noah, right? For
Yep.
example,
Yeah.
they did have laws and regulations or whatever, what and what not. Okay,
Yep.
so the only argument God made against them was about shirk. God makes other arguments with other people, like for example, with Sodom and Gomorrah, he makes about obscenity,
Homosexuality.
with
Yeah.
homosexuality.
Yep.
He with people of Shu'aib, he makes about fair trade. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
With people of Noah, he
Uh-huh.
made an argument about shirk.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that society, whatever the society was at that time, it did have their own laws and regulations and rules and what not.
Uh-huh.
Even Ali ibn Abi Talib, you know what he said?
What's that?
Ali said, a society will go on as long as they will find justice to live on, even if they are disbelievers. The moment they drop justice, it'll collapse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is Ali, Hazrat Ali, he said this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the point is societies can come up. I mean, definitely modern Western societies have derived their laws from
Religious teachings.
Westminster system, which is based on Christian principles for sure,
Yeah.
100%. No
Judeo-Christian
doubt about that.
values. Yeah.
No doubt about that. Okay, but that is not a fuller argument. What they would, how atheists would argue is, though there was a lot of bad things about religion they were imposing on society. They were killing scientists. They were killing people who disagreed with the Bible. We have gotten rid of all of those sort of things. They were. It was misogynistic. It was like it was not treating women well. We have gotten rid of all of those sort of things. So what atheists say is, look,
Wait,
today
they have
we
got
are a
rid of
secular
what? They have got
society.
rid of what? Say that bit again. They have got rid
They
of
have
what?
gotten rid of misogyny
Oh,
against women.
what kind of misogyny? But again, this is my point, Masood. They'll ascribe all the credit to themselves, but didn't religion do that as well? Did religion
No,
do that more?
no, wait a second, please. Wait a second, please. What they're saying is
Yeah.
the secular atheists.
Yeah.
They are making a point that, look, you have religion.
Yeah.
Look at the Middle East. You are fighting over religion, and your religion is making you fight. Okay, and that's why you're fleeing those lands and you're coming into Western lands that are secular lands. Why? Because you find good life here. So we are far
Right,
better
but
people. We are
but
far
I
better
think
people
the
who
the
don't have
argument,
religion.
it's not as simple as that, Masood. And the
No,
reason
no,
why
look,
is
no, look,
this: for
no,
them
look.
to ignore and completely dismiss the colonization that has happened to those kind of
No, look.
countries, right?
That's history,
By
brother.
Western colonialism,
Look,
but history
that's
matters. History
history.
plays a
That's
part on
history.
how society operates.
No, look. There is a
So
there's
are you
there
telling me
is a different
colonialism has
way.
had no effect as to why the
No,
Muslim
what I'm
countries are
saying
suffering
is,
now?
what I'm saying is, there is a different way to dispel these arguments.
Sure.
Instead of making reference to their history, how
Yeah.
bad they were, and
Yeah.
how good they have become now.
Uh-huh.
That's not my style of arguing with people.
Sure.
I have
What is
different
what is
arguments
your
with
style?
people. Okay. Look, um, again, um, I got lost, where to pick up that argument from. But I would
Mhm,
come from um, establishing premises. The first premise is:
mhm.
can you prove, can you disprove God's existence? If not, I will tell him I can prove His existence. Okay.
Okay.
Then will you acknowledge the truth? Will you acknowledge God exists? That'll be my fulcrum. And when
Masood, do you know what? Actually,
yeah,
I'm gonna continue with this, okay?
sure.
And I understand what you're trying to say. First, you want to establish the foundation and the premise, and
Yes.
kind of go from
Yes.
there. I get that, and that's fair. That is very reasonable as well. Very
Mm,
reasonable. But I just
mm,
want to ask you the question, right? So let's say they
mm,
ask you that question about, oh, there's more atheists that do good and who are more ethical rather than Muslims. What would your
mm.
response to that have been?
I would say I acknowledge it. I would say yes, I acknowledge it. People can be very good people without religion. People can be very good people without belief in God. I acknowledge it because the Quran never dismisses this point that people can be good without belief. The Quran never claims such a thing. The Quran never says people can't be good to themselves without having faith in God. The Quran never makes a point like that. Okay, so
So
I
so
I,
no
I
no no
acknowledge
but
it.
that no they're not asking you again. I don't know if you heard the question correctly. They're not
What
asking
is it?
you, can
Mm.
someone be good without religion?
Of
They're
course, I would say
asking
yes. Yeah.
no,
They're
no but
asking what?
that wasn't the question. You're not answering the
Mm.
question. The question was, most of the atheists are better than most of the Muslims in
I
how
would
they
say
are
yes.
as well. You would agree
I
with
would
that
say
as well?
yes.
Okay.
I would
Now,
say yes. Yes.
okay, sure.
Mm.
And why would you say yes?
Because genuinely, they do their things as regards the worldly laws and regulations far better than what Muslims would do. Muslims would still today uh, try to cheat on taxes, um, which some of the
Mm,
atheists that I know of, they don't do it. Okay, and
okay.
lots of other things. The atheists believe in
So
practicing.
would you just end your argument there? You would just concede and say yes, and that's it.
Yes, I would say yes. But there's no
And
doubt
and
about it.
and
I would
and,
say
and,
there's no
and
doubt
you
about
wouldn't
it.
and you wouldn't go any further than that.
No, what's the point? I would just acknowledged it. I just said yes.
No,
That's a fair
but
point.
there is a point, and it's not a
Mm.
fair point actually. I would disagree with you.
What is
It's
the
not a fair
point?
point at all.
What
Firstly,
is the
number
point?
one, let me ask you a question, right? What's the atheist population in comparison to the Muslim population? Significance difference, right?
See,
Okay, so one second. I haven't finished my argument. Big difference,
mm,
okay? Big difference. We'll say around there's 2 billion plus Muslims. And on average, we'll probably say atheists 400 Muslims. Okay. Number
mm.
one, are there more opportunities for a Muslim to do wrong than an atheist? Yes, because the population is already bigger. Number one. Does that also mean in turn Muslims can contribute a lot more positively to this world than atheists? Yes, because their population is a lot bigger as well. Number one, first argument. Number two, and by the way, if you wasn't to have just mentioned what I mentioned, people would have left with the idea that you've already conceded the debate. This is why I say
Mm.
you shouldn't just say yes and give them what they want. You should
Uh,
layer it with fair
I
context and
no,
arguments. Do you get
I
what I'm trying to
don't
say?
see a problem. I don't see a problem
No,
in doing that.
but
Actually, I don't see a point in the way that you're building arguments.
yeah,
I don't see a point in it. I wouldn't necessarily argue it like that. I would
yeah.
just say yes, I would agree.
But
Um,
did my argument make sense to you? Did you understand what I'm trying to
uh,
say?
Not really, to be honest, because
Uh,
eventually what you're trying to do is you're trying to average it out, like saying proportionally Muslims are still doing good, um, and you know uh, better than much better than atheists would do. That's technically your argument. Um,
Yeah, no,
but
no. My pure argument back would be, how did you reach the conclusion that more atheists have done better than Muslims? Like, how did you reach that? Are you judging it from your own
I'm not saying that.
experience?
I'm not saying most atheists have done
I'm
better
not
than
saying
Muslims.
you.
I
I'm
never
not
said
saying
that.
you. I'm not saying you, Masood. I'm saying,
Uh,
remember, we're pretending that an atheist asked this question.
no,
Let's say the atheist asked this question.
they do acknowledge lots of atheists are rubbish people. They do acknowledge that.
No, Masood, you're not understanding, brother. I'm saying, remember what we all of this started from, because remember we said we was role playing and pretending, what kind of arguments will they offer. So then
Yes,
you
yes.
said that an atheist would, what they could respond by saying, well, most atheists are more ethical than most Muslims, right? That was the
Yes.
argument we're dealing with. So i'm
Yeah.
not i'm not talking about you, yeah,
So
I'm talking
see,
to
they
the
would.
atheists. So
Okay,
I'm
okay.
saying, to the atheists, how did you reach the
Yes.
conclusion that most
So they
atheists
would
are better
say,
than most
say,
Muslims?
yes, they would say, look at your own countries, look at what is happening, the mayhem, the
Mm.
infighting, because of religion. They would say it's your religion that is actually making you fight. It's your religion. It's your religion. You're fighting because of religious reasons. Look at what happened in Syria, the Shia and Sunni. It's religion that was causing you to fight. So they would say, looking at the scenario, look, we are not as bad as these people are.
But I
We are
would
not
say
fighting
that
and we
that
are not
that
killing
that the
people.
argument itself is poor, because what they've done is they've neglected all the other reasons and they've made it only that reason, that it's just the Muslims fighting each other.
Uh,
They dismiss the arguments of the Muslim countries who have been colonized, who have been oppressed. We know about the Iraq War, the lies of the weapons of mass destruction, the way it has
mm,
weakened the Muslim society. When a society
mm.
becomes weak, what happens? People become more desperate. When people become more desperate, that causes more tensions. When there's more tensions, there becomes more civil war, more infighting. One person wants to rebel against the government. You need to provide these layers of context. If you don't
No, I
provide
don't
these
see a
layers of context,
point. I don't
but
see a
okay,
point
but one
to
second,
be
but
really honest with you.
aren't these layers of context valid?
No, they're not valid because the simple reason being, have you seen the
So
cockfights?
so so it's just the case that Muslims are fighting each other. That's it. That's why they're bad.
No,
That's why.
I would no, I would ask you, have you seen the cockfights? The cockfights,
No, I don't know. What
like
do you
the
mean?
roosters,
No,
like the chicken, the rooster,
no.
the
What's your
the male
point?
of the chicken.
Uh-huh.
What happens is two people bring their own chickens to see who wins or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So they make they surround them, right?
Uh-huh.
All the people surround the chickens. Chickens can't, fly off or whatever it is,
Uh-huh.
and they leave the chickens, and the chickens start fighting, right?
Uh-huh.
And I would say because they are chickens, they do that. They don't have
This
superior reasoning capability not to
Masood,
fight, even
but
when
then
they are
Masood,
surrounded. Even when they are
I would
surrounded,
say,
right?
I would
I
say
would no, no,
it's a
wait
very
on.
unfair.
Let
It's
let
very.
me let me
What?
make my
What's it go?
point.
Okay,
Let me
go
make
ahead.
my point.
Go ahead.
Even when we have enemies around us,
Yeah.
even when there are strategies against the Muslim empire or whatever it is,
Yeah.
Muslim lands or Muslim
Yeah.
ummah,
Yeah.
they they there may be all sorts of forces, enemy forces, wanting Muslims to fight, right? But what does Allah say to us? What does Allah say to us? Isn't that not important? Allah says, seek peace. Have we tried? Do we try? Do we try even today? Shouldn't we listen to Allah and use our superior capability not to fight? We are being like chickens, you know what I mean? Those
Let me know.
roosters who are
Let me know when
fighting.
you're done with your argument.
No, this is my argument basically. Even
Yeah.
if there are enemies, even if there are strategies, even if there is
I
all
understand
sorts
what you
of
mean. We have our own
plans,
consciousness, and we can still determine between right and wrong. Yes,
absolutely, we shouldn't
I
fight.
get what you're saying. I get what you're
Mm,
saying. Hundred
mm,
percent, right?
mm,
But same way is this. We cannot deny, okay, a person
mm,
who's raised in a family of righteous Muslims who has set an example has an
mm,
advantage to live a much more healthier Muslim lifestyle than a person who has grown in a family where sin is prevalent.
mm,
We have to acknowledge that they are both not the same and that one has it more easier than the other. This is my point. So for us to sort of dismiss the hardships almost that a Muslim society needs, no doubt they have to determine between right and wrong. That I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with
mm,
you on that. But at the
mm,
same time, we also need to step back and understand, okay, do you know
mm,
what? It's not the case where they're just fighting with each other just for the sake of it. There are reasoning behind it as well. There are layers
no,
of
no.
context behind it as well.
What the world knows about it is Muslims have fought in the recent past
What?
because of their
Because
religion,
because once it
Shia and Sunni, and
when Muslims what is it before these wars were they fighting as much before these wars before the Western intervention? Let me ask you a question, and I'm here to test you. Were Muslims fighting each other as much?
oh well, look, Muslims. the Muslim Islamic history is not an ideal case scenario
I'm asking you
where
a
you
question.
would
That before
expect.
Western intervention, were Muslims fighting as much as they were today on this scale? Before Western intervention,
Is that an excuse anyway, critical
I'm just
thinker?
asking. I'm just asking you a
Is
question. Yes or no?
See, is it even an excuse? I'm asking you.
Whether
Is
it's
that is that an
excuse or not,
excuse?
I could get to that. But I'm just waiting for you to answer the question. I
I
could
would
touch
say
on that
no.
point.
I would say no.
So you would say no. So you said
I
before
would say
Western
no.
intervention, they were fighting a lot more.
Look, there has been in the history of Islamic
I
existence,
understand that.
there ha- there
I'm not
has been
saying that there hasn't
instances
been
when
civil wars.
Muslims have
Yeah,
fought, and there
of
has been
course.
instances where Muslims were absolutely good people. It actually benefited communities. It actually benefited the whole world in amazing ways of innovations of science, of social sciences, justice, righteousness, looking after people, caring,
I
welfare.
understand
I
that,
mean,
but
absolutely, Islam has done a phenomenal job to deliver good to the world. I mean, there's no doubt about it,
but this
right?
isn't what
Okay,
I'm saying. This isn't what I'm saying. This isn't the point
there's
I'm
no doubt
even
about it.
making.
But the current scenario,
I
the
just
current,
one second. No,
current,
no, because
current
I don't want
scenario.
you to shy away from the question.
Mm,
If you don't know, just
mm,
say you don't know. Okay.
okay.
Before Western intervention, were Muslims fighting as much as they are on this scale today? After
No,
post-Western intervention,
I told you no. I told you the answer was negative. Muslims were good people. Okay.
Muslims were not fighting as much before, right? Before Western intervention, correct? We can agree on that.
I told you the history prior to the colonization of the world was a very good Islamic state of living. It was very
So
good.
we agree. Okay, great. So we
It
agree.
was very
So
good.
the mere fact, and you said it yourself, it was very good prior to the Western intervention and colonization. Do you not think that you, as a Muslim who is answering these questions from atheists,
Hmm.
has to mention these factors? The fact that Western intervention
Oh, I
is
do.
also
I do mention it. Don't.
no, no, no. But you
I
just said you
am
don't think it's
not. No,
necessary. You
no, no,
don't
no.
think
Look,
it's
look, look, look. No, no,
valid,
look,
and
look, look. You know,
this is
wait a
my whole
second.
point. This
These
is
are
my whole
these are two
argument.
different
I'm saying
arguments. These are two different
it's
arguments.
not.
They are two
It's
different
not.
arguments.
The Western
No,
intervention has weakened these
wait a
states,
second.
and they
Wait a second,
contribute
critical
to a lot
thinker.
of the infighting that's going on.
Critical thinker. Wait a
No
second,
doubt, the
please.
Muslims should determine between right or wrong, but we can't deny the West has
No,
contributed to the
critical.
fighting.
No, critical thinker. Critical
Yeah.
thinker.
Yes.
I am representing Islam.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm writing books. I'm distributing it to atheists. I'm asking
Yeah.
on top of my voice to become for them to become Muslims. I
Yeah.
just handed out a letter to the governor of South Australia where I live.
Yeah.
Just gave them a letter just last week to asking them to consider Islam for religion and teach people about Islam, right? I just did it,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
I am I am a Muslim, a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a proponent of his deen, okay?
Uh huh.
But my arguments that I was giving you are relevant to our time. This is what
Uh-huh.
people are getting to see. This is what people are getting to experience. This is how people learn about Islam.
But
And what they learn about
no.
Islam is all the wrong things that Muslims are doing in the current world.
But same way,
They
we
are
should
not
correct
necessarily.
them if their
No, that
arguments
is
are
different.
based on false
That is that is
promises.
that is different. That is different. We will do it eventually. I mean, I'm doing it in my
What's
writings. Okay, it's all in my writings. But technically, when they would make an argument, I wouldn't argue with them necessarily on that front, and I would say, yes, there are atheists who are good people, better people than Muslims. I would accept it, and I would say, look, this is the current state of affairs. Islam has a long history. It's been 1400 years since this religion has come to fore. And
hmm?
if you see how it has conducted itself and what it has granted to global humanity, these are amazing fruits that you can never deny that Islam never gave to the people. I mean, it's obvious if you
Look,
study the history, okay?
Masood, look,
Mm.
I'm being patient with you. Yeah, and I am listening to you. But you said earlier on that if an atheist was to ask you that question, you would just concede and move on. I
Yes,
asked
I
you,
would.
would you not actually elaborate your argument?
I
Tell
wouldn't.
them, you would. Then we disagree on this matter. Then
That's not the most important point for me because an
it's not.
atheist
It's not
an
about the most
atheist
important point. It's the mere fact that you've conceded and you've just agreed and stopped it at that.
No, I would see. Look, we are having a relative uh,
No, I
dialogue
get,
about the
yeah,
present world. They would say
yeah,
in the present world, they know for the fact that Muslims did not migrate to the Western world in the past. They know that, right? They are
yeah.
telling today you leave your countries and you come to the Western world, and
But
they're
Masood,
asking
this
why.
is why. This is why. Why should we go? Do they dictate the rules about present? It is unfair to
It's
just
okay,
look at the
Chad.
present.
No,
One second, please. Don't interrupt me. It's not fair. It's not just for us to just purely look at the present without looking at the past and how the present became the way it is present today.
um,
That's
y-
just my
y-
point.
okay, you
That's
made
my
your
point.
point.
Yeah.
Okay, you made your point. They are not denying that. Like for example, when you talk the good things about Islam to them, they're
Yeah.
not denying it. They're not denying it. What they're
How do you
telling
know that
is,
they are not denying it?
because I've had conversations with them, they're not
But you
denying
only
it.
had
What they're telling is,
conversation with some age. You haven't had conversation. I could have a conversation. I
no,
could say
look,
they
no,
have
look,
denied it.
no. Let me make a point. What they're saying is,
Yeah.
Islam may have been a good force that did a lot of good in the past, but it is just not suitable to the modern world.
I
That's
get
their
that.
argument. Their argument is it is not a 21st century religion. The laws and regulations of this religion don't fit to the requirements and the needs of the modern civilization. This is their argument, right?
I
So I'm
understand. Yeah.
answering them. I'm answering them relatively. I'm telling them, yes, in the relative world, in the present world, there are atheists who are better people who conduct better in different ways than people of religion, even than Muslims. See, definitely you would give them the credit that atheists don't do stuff like what the Christians in the churches have done, right? You would
Yes,
still
no
consider
doubt about
atheists to
that.
be better people,
But that
right?
wasn't what we were speaking on. For example,
No, 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 no.
if the statement was if the question was merely the fact that are there some atheists who are better than some called so-called Muslims, right?
That is
In
that
terms
is
of their
technically the argument. See,
character, that
that
is
is the
not the.
technical argument. It is.
Mhm.
It is. You have to give them the
But
credit of making that argument. I wouldn't take offense, brother.
because
I mean, I'm telling you, I wouldn't take
it's not about
offense.
offense. It's not about offense. It's
Yeah.
not about offense. It's the fact. It's the way they worded the question. It's already loaded. They've done it in such a way that they're biased towards their own selves. Do you understand? So the problem is within their questioning. So
No,
one second. You and I both know, for example, there's some atheists out there who you
mm,
could say, in terms of living their life, they're better than some so-called Muslims who are part of ISIS, for example. They're
mm,
not going around chopping anyone's head off. So that's
mm.
purely logical. You and I both know that anyway. So
That's right.
that's not just a question because that's a dumb question to ask. That's like saying, is water good for you? Yes. It's
Uh,
obvious. But their
you have.
question, when they ask that
Mm,
question, they're
mm.
basically saying atheist has done more, has contributed more for a more better society than Islam. That is actually
No,
their real question.
not necessarily true. Not necessarily. They wouldn't argue like that. They would see when I came here
Mhm.
like 10 years ago. That's
Yeah,
when Syria thing was happening, and
yeah,
people were like chopped off their heads and everything. And
yeah.
people would here would say, "Horrible, horrible. What kind of religion would allow its people to do that?" You know.
You see
So
that the
they
loaded
would
question,
say,
loaded question.
exactly,
They're
exactly.
assuming the religion does allow it
No, no.
when it doesn't. Yeah,
You see, I have no problem. I
yeah,
have no problem acknowledging the wrongs of the Muslim community. I have
yeah.
no
No doubt
problem.
about that.
Okay. So I have
But
no
again, with
problem giving them the
Muslims,
credit
we're
of
not
being good
focused.
people.
But it's never
See,
they can never
let's
find a wrong
let's
within
do that.
Islam, within the
Let's
religion.
see. Once if you keep arguing, right, you will
Yeah,
not proceed with them. If you keep arguing like this, you will not make progress in giving them the guidance that the most importantly need, which is recognition of a
God,
creator. that's
I
that's
get that.
most important. Okay, so you have to move on. You can't keep arguing with them
Yeah,
in matters that are not significant at this point in time, that are
yeah.
not important at this point in time,
No, no,
right?
that's fine.
you
That's
will
fine.
do
That's fine.
yourself
But
good
but
you will
the,
do
look,
yourself
look.
good if you
I think we
acknowledge
need
it.
to. I get you, Masood, but I think we need to
Mm,
find the balance as well, right? So it doesn't mean that we just go by their rules and just concede. Mention what you have to say, but then, like
mm.
I did with Apostate Aladdin, look what I did. I said, okay, no worries. We've been talking about this for now. We'll agree to disagree. Now let's move on to the main fruits of the discussion, which is there a God? This is how you articulate yourself. So don't just simply agree with their terms, just say yes and leave it as that. Say what you need to say, provide the context that's necessary, and of course, if the conversation is going a bit too long, then just say, okay, we'll agree to disagree on this matter. Now let's focus on a topic which is more fruitful, which is there a God? If there is, how do we know that there is a God? This is the way we should
I'm not.
articulate
I'm
the
not
argument.
against. I'm not against the idea. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely not against the idea. I appreciate. I mean, I sort of appreciate your style.
Yeah,
But I would quickly move on to different things. That's just my style,
I get you. Yeah.
and I would feel
And look, if
much
you're someone who
better.
doesn't have
Yeah,
time to do the
yeah,
conversation justice,
yeah.
then I would say it's better that you don't enter the discussion in the first place if you can't
No,
give the
I
conversation
don't
its
I
fair
don't regard
due
it
right.
I don't regard it
Yeah.
as I don't regard it as being unjust on my part.
Yeah. But by the way,
I wouldn't I
you said
wouldn't.
no, but you said as well that
Mm.
you know that there's atheists or whatnot who have good morals
Of
and
course they have. Of course there are atheists with good morals.
okay, yeah, sure. As in
Not all atheists are
yeah,
into homosexuality,
yeah, no, of
or
course.
even for example adultery.
Huh.
Some of the atheists have just remained loyal to their one partner their
Yeah.
entire life. Okay, and they're good people. They're actively giving charity. Why would they give charity? I mean, they have commitment to humane life. They do give charity.
But what I would
All of these sort of good
say,
things.
sure. But what I would say to that in response is the point is not
Mm.
whether their morals are good.
See, I mean, look, we have to consider people when they say they're good people. You take them on their face value. There's no
No,
need to say you're not good people.
no,
There's
no.
no
You
need to
don't need
say
to.
that.
No, you don't need to say that either.
So
You don't need to
you
say either.
acknowledge if somebody's telling
You
you
you listen to
I'm a
them.
good man.
You don't
I'm a
need to concede that they're good, nor do you need to say that they're bad.
No, I mean
You s-
what is the
you
problem in
you don't
conceding,
you
bro?
don't,
What is the problem in conceding that they're good people?
if you concede that they're good people, you're conceding that their morals are good, and you're ignoring the point that the point is not whether their morals they're good are good or not. The point is whether they submit to Allah and obey His commands. That's the
See,
point.
if I
If you
tell you,
concede, you're basically conceding that yes, their morals are good, even though they do not even acknowledge the existence of Allah and obey His commands.
no,
Is
see
that
that
person really good
that
in
is
that
not
case,
necessarily true. That is not necessarily true. So
according to who?
see if no, look, according to us, we live in this world, right? We live
No,
in
no,
this
I don't
world.
go by us. I go by Quran and Sunnah. Who are
No,
me
wait a
and you to
second.
give our
No, no.
opinions?
See,
Our opinions doesn't matter when it comes to the
no,
religion. You know.
you're not
Yeah.
understanding. You're not
Uh-huh.
understanding how life is organized. Okay, we live in this world, right? We live in this
Yes.
world.
Yes.
فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى. Allah says, whenever my huda, my hidayat, my guidance comes to you, you
Yes.
acknowledge it, right? You acknowledge it, right?
Uh-huh.
But we are living in this life, right?
Uh-huh.
We have a life to make. For example, there are
Yeah.
societies, for example, in this country where I live, there are Aborigines, right? Aborigines, they don't have a history of nubuwat.
Yeah.
Nubuwat has not taken place here, right?
Look, one thing I would say is not all atheists are the same. Yes, there are some atheists that are better than others. Yes, no doubt
See, what
about
I'm
it.
saying is,
But what I'm saying, we can't.
when people
Wait.
come and say hi,
Yeah. Yeah.
salam,
Yeah.
and whatever it is, hi, hello, salam,
Yeah.
yeah, you say hi, hello, salam, and you
Let
give
me
them
give you. This is gonna do you know what this simple question I'm gonna ask you is gonna
mm,
really hit the nail on the head.
mm.
If atheist was to come and say salamu alaikum to us, you respond with wa alaikum salam.
I would, 100%.
You're wrong in doing that.
I I'm I'm
This
not
is
wrong
what
to
I'm
do that.
saying, and this is
I'm
why
not
I
wrong
asked you
to do
this
that.
question. You are wrong.
Why would you think I'm wrong to do that?
That's in Islam. Yeah,
Why would you
you,
think I'm wrong to do that?
I'm telling you why. Yeah, in Islam. Okay, you
No,
don't
there's
say
something
why.
has gone wrong. It's not audible. It's not audible.
Oh,
I can't hear you.
it's very.
Okay, listen.
It's very.
Critical thinker,
Can you
critical
hear me?
thinker.
Hello.
Now it's good, but can I stop here because I gotta attend to my kid, and we will catch up another time
Well, one
if it's
second.
okay.
Critical. Yeah, yeah. I mean, sorry, Masood. That's fine. Just want to quickly end this point. Yeah, you're saying wa alaikum wa alaikum salam, but
Yeah.
you're not meant to say this though, brother.
Why?
Well, the reason why is because this is and this is consensus by the scholars, the ulama, who are a lot more
I don't
knowledgeable than me and
see.
you. Yeah.
I don't care about the scholars of the Middle East. I don't care about them. I don't care
Well,
what they've
then
said.
this is where your problem is. Then this is honestly this is where your
That's
problem is.
fine. That's
One
fine.
second, one second.
Yeah,
Okay, 1 second. Okay, forget about the scholars
yeah.
then. What if I told you? Do you believe in hadiths?
Look, the most important qawl is the qawl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does Allah say about it?
My
Allah says,
question.
when you travel the earth, I'm giving you the Quran. Pay attention to this.
Yeah.
When you travel the earth and somebody comes and says salam to you, don't say lasta mu'mina. Don't say that you're not a believer. I will not say salam to you. Don't say that.
I didn't say I didn't say that. I didn't say you'd respond with, "Oh, you're not a believer." No, but you don't say wa alaikum salam. Rather, you say wa alaikum. You are not
No,
meant to say wa
I don't
alaikum
have a
salam.
problem.
If you
What
say
I don't
wa
have a
alaikum
problem
salam, that means you're saying peace
because
be upon
Allah
you too.
teaches me in the Quran. Allah teaches me in the Quran. If somebody greets you, greet equally or better. Your greeting should be equal or it should be better. So I would go by equal at least.
No, this is incorrect. This is
This is
your
the Quran. This is the
this is your
Quran. No, no,
no.
no.
This is your
Hang on.
misunderstanding.
This is the Quran.
This is
This is the Quran.
if you're speaking with your
Shall,
fellow
shall
Muslim.
I show you the verse?
Yeah,
Shall I show you the ayah?
let's look at the verse right now. Let's look at the verse right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay. Hang on. I'm pulling it out. Okay. Which verse?
two
The first or
things.
the
It's
second
either
verse?
Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is a liar or Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is a liar. Okay, because I can give you a clear, narration in Hadith.
No,
It's very clear.
you are coming from a very different angle. You're
It's not a
attacking the
different
subject in a
angle.
very different angle.
It is the angle that us Muslims should have, because it's not permissible firstly to initiate the greeting of salam to a non-Muslim. Why? Because our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said so. He said very clearly, do not initiate the greeting of salam to a Jew or Christian. So if you can't even do that to a Jew or Christian, then surely you can't even do that with an atheist. And that's narrated in Sahih Muslim 2167. You can check for yourself.
See,
Sah-
look,
Sahih Muslim.
Sahih Muslim. If you say Sahih to Muslim, it doesn't become Sahih Muslim. You know what I mean? Sahih Muslim is a title that people
You
have
know-
given
you
to
believe-
ahadith. Lots of ahadith are da'if. Lots of ahadith are sahih. Okay. Lots of ahadith may be da'if.
you believe in hadiths, right?
You're breaking out. You're breaking out.
I'm saying you believe in hadiths, right? All of them. I'm saying you believe in hadiths,
Your,
correct?
your voice is breaking out. Something is happening to your voice.
Hello, can you hear me?
It's better now.
Okay, I'm saying you believe in hadiths, correct?
I believe in hadiths that match up with the Quran. Those that don't match up with the Quran, I just leave it outside.
Then what? Wait, 1 second. Do you pray 5 times a day?
Of course.
Okay. Where in the Quran does it say for you to pray 5 times a day?
I mean, what kind of requirements are you expecting the Quran to give you, man?
How
There
do you
has
know?
not been-
No,
There
answer my
has not
question.
been.
How
look,
do you know
there
how
has-
to pray 5
wait a
times a day
second.
then?
No, okay, I will give you a counter question. Before the hadiths were written, did Muslims not pray 5 times a day?
No.
Hadiths were only written
The-
200 years
the-
later on.
Listen,
Hadiths became books 200 years later on. Weren't Muslims praying during that time?
this is why you're failing to understand how hadiths were
Didn't
compiled in the
Muslims
first
pray?
place.
No, didn't
Hadiths,
Muslims pray during that time? You just tell me
no,
that.
no doubt the Muslims have prayed, but they
So
didn't
what
always
kind
pray
of
the
an
same.
argument are you coming from?
1 second. I'm going to tell you the argument. Do you not know the story of when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, they commanded us, to pray, I think it was 50 times a day. Then I think it was Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went back to Allah and he said, Ya Allah, I'm worried this may be a struggle for the believers. Can you reduce it? So then Allah lowered it. And then Allah lowered it again until it was 5 times. Have you never heard about this?
Can we talk this subject of hadith in
Okay, I'm
a
sure.
next session?
I'm sure, but I'm just saying, have you heard about this? We can, but I'm just saying, have you heard about this? If you haven't, just say it.
No. Look, please. Can we talk about this in the next
That's-
session? We can have a full
No problem.
discussion about
No,
hadith.
no problem. I'm just
Okay.
asking you though, have you heard about it? Yes or no?
Of course, I've heard of it. Of course, I've heard of it. Don't
Okay,
ask me
so you
another
have
question
heard.
now. Don't ask me next question.
Okay.
We will talk about this. We will talk about this in another session.
Allahu Alam if
okay?
you heard of it. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I gave you the reference. You can take a look at that reference. You know. You can
No,
take-
I have
you
read
can-
hadith, a lot of hadith.
The
I've
the,
read
the
them,
grade
alright?
the grade is Sahih, by the way. It's not Daif. It's Sahih. But it's very clear.
See,
you don't
I believe,
greet the
I
Jews and
believe
Christians.
I believe Sahih Bukhari. Just because we call the work of Bukhari Sahih, it doesn't become Sahih. Just because there's consensus among the ulama, it doesn't necessarily become Sahih. I myself have read Mushafs in Mecca where there is mushafs, where there is commentaries, some of the hadiths that I've read and I thought were sahih from the Bukhari, you know, the hadiths are from Hudayfa ibn Yaman. Okay, very very reliable Sahabi. Okay,
I
his
know.
ahadith
Yeah.
in the mushafs in Mecca when I went to Umrah. I was reading the commentaries and they had chopped the hadiths out. They had done chopping work. I'm asking, who the hell are you to chop this hadith out? Just because it goes against your kingdom, you're chopping it off, and you're having your scholarship come and say, oh, that part of the hadith is da'if and the other part of the hadith is sahih. Who are you to do these things? When you can do these things, why can't other people do these things? You know what I mean?
Okay, but look, again, what I'm saying is, well, firstly, number one, obviously, I disagree with you. I know you said you have to pick up, you have to help, was it feed your child or something? So I don't want to go into it
Yeah.
too much of a long matter, but I would completely disagree with you on this matter. Uh, but anyway, we will leave that for now. Anyway, your fellow Muslim brother, and like, I don't think it's necessary. Maybe we can go into disagreements, but you know,
Yeah, sure.
you're not, to
Okay,
dwell onto this for too long
I
is.
couldn't even find the verse. Wait a second. I'll just find the verse that I wanted to show you.
Please,
Okay.
please, please do. Yeah,
Okay. Wait a second, please. Okay.
because like
It is
yeah,
verse number 86 from from 4, chapter 4, verse 86.
Surah An-Nisa. Yeah.
Chapter 4, verse 86. وإذا حييتم بتحية فحيوا بأحسن منها أو ردها. Okay. إن الله كان على كل شيء حسيبا. So Allah says, وإذا حييتم بتحية فحيوا بأحسن منها أو ردها. Make it better or at least return the equal. This is the Quran.
Yeah, but we would just, and this is why because I want to respect you, and I know you have to go, you have to do something with your child, but you failed.
Yeah.
Your understanding of this has failed because you've applied this up amongst the non-Muslims. This is regards to your own Muslim brothers and sisters.
Okay, let us study the context.
Sure, let's do that because when you study it,
let's do that in the next session, okay? Let's tackle this subject in the next
we
session.
can, but I'm telling you right now, you can do that within 5 minutes of research.
Okay, wait a second.
I'm just letting you know. You really can. If you want, I'm gonna ask.
See, look. I'll tell you what. Simple thing.
Yes.
With this note, we will end. We will end with this point, and we will.
Take a look.
No, you're breaking. You're breaking off. You're breaking off.
So,
Can you
can
hear
you
me?
see? Yes. Can you hear me? Look in the chat. Click on the link,
Okay.
and we can read through it together. Just quickly. Just quickly.
Which chat? Which chat?
In the private chat of our stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Private
Click on the
chat.
link.
Okay. Okay. Wait a second. Please. Now let us finish it off here. You can make your last point, whatever you want to say, and I'll make my last point, and then we can hook up on Twitter and try to find out a suitable time to talk. All right?
No problem. That's fine.
Are you okay? Okay.
No
Make your
problem.
last point now. Go ahead.
Okay, last point is you're incorrect in wanting to say wa alaikum salam to non-Muslims. This is clearly against the Quran and Sunnah. And with regards to the verse that you have put, this is only amongst the Muslims. So this doesn't apply to the non-Muslims. For you to try apply it to non-Muslims is incorrect. And the evidence is clear. I'll send you the link. You can take a look at yourself. But prior to the introduction of Islam in Arabia, when Islam came, this type of greeting was changed and replaced with the standard form of greeting, which is Assalamu alaikum. But actually, meaning says, "May you return safe from every pain, etc." And this is amongst the Muslims. This verse is in reference to, so it is not reference to even the Jews or the Christians. Okay, and it's something that is meant to be between the Muslims to increase love between one another and affection. So
Okay.
yes,
Did you
and this
finish?
form of greeting is an act of worship in its own right. I'm finished now.
Okay.
Abu Huraira, by the way, said that the message of Allah, peace be upon him, said, "You cannot enter paradise until you are a believer, and your belief cannot be complete until you love each other. I tell you of something of if you put into practice, will establish bonds of love among you all, and that is make salam a common practice among you, which should include every Muslim." whether an acquaintance or a stranger. Okay, this is the tafsir. If you want to look at the verse, tafsir, tafsir means the explanation of the verse. So it is a reference to Muslims only, not to non-Muslims. That's it.
Okay, are
Thank
you
you.
done?
I'm done.
Okay. Okay, I'll make my last point and then we will say Assalamu alaikum and we will meet up another time. And my
Inshallah.
point is,
Good talking with you, by the way.
yeah, yeah, same. My point is, Umar ibn al-Khattab,
Mhm.
he would look for the Sahabi who was called Sahabi Asir to look for people's funeral prayer. He would see if this Sahabi is present in them or not. If he's not present, Omar would not go and join in the funeral prayer, knowing that he was a hypocrite. Okay, and hypocrites were active people in the Muslim community, praying with them, making salam and receiving salam. Okay, all of this was normal business. When you could actually hypocrites who will have the most severe punishment in hellfire, when you could actually say salam and walaikum salam to them, how would that prevent you from making salam to other people? Look, this is my reasoning, and this is why I consider that hadith to be
Wait,
da'if.
you
Okay,
said, give me the hadith that you read that from, please. What was the
no,
reference?
I don't know the reference. I don't know the reference,
Sorry,
but
can you just repeat that bit again? You said Umar ibn Khattab. He said? What did you say?
when people would die off, like pass on.
Yes. Yeah.
So he would see for a Sahabi. The Sahabi is called Sahabi Asir, who knew the secrets of Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so Prophet Muhammad had told him that some of the names of the hypocrites,
Okay.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So Omar would look out for this Sahabi, whether he's joining in the funeral or not. Okay,
Mhm.
so if he was not there, then Umar would not go to that funeral, right? He would stay away, right? So, but these hypocrites, they were active members of the Muslim society, praying with them, receiving salam, saying salam, and everything. It was normal. And Allah
Uh-huh.
tells us hypocrites will have the worst punishment in hellfire, the worst form of punishment in
Yes.
hellfire, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
They even
when
say
you could,
Western apostates. Yeah.
when Muslims could do salam and walaikum salam with people who receive worst punishment in hellfire,
Yeah.
I I I make it a reasoning that there's no trouble saying salam in the light of the Quran when the Quran is
I understand.
actually teaching you to do. There's no problem for me to say salam or walaikum salam. It's up to Allah, man. Allah will
Mhm.
judge. But if somebody greets me salam alaikum, I would not hesitate to greet him walaikum assalam. Okay, that's my point. Let's catch up another time.
Agreed.
I'll
Okay,
I'll
I
give you some
disagree,
messages.
but because obviously we
That's
don't know
fine.
who's a hypocrite or not, but we know who are non-believers. So, but yeah.
It's
Anyway.
all right. It's all right. It's all
Yeah.
right. Okay.
That's it.
Oh, we'll
Anyway.
talk another
Anyway.
time.
Yeah.
We'll talk another time.
Great
I'll
talking
catch.
with you, man.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, we will connect on
Uh-huh.
Twitter. All right.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's just the
Okay.
main thing is we differ in like approaches, really. But other than we agree on the. Obviously, one of the statements I disagree is I don't understand why it's wrong to take a scholar from Saudi. I don't know why the location matters so much. Should be about whether they speak the truth or not. That shouldn't matter whether it's Saudi or not.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
But
we'll chat another time because my kid is now behind
no
me.
worries, no worries. Take care of
All
yourself. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Okay, brother.
Bye.
Look after.
Take care.
Salam
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.